This is a situation in which three emotionally immature adults who don't know that they're immature have risen to positions of power and influence and likely should not be in those positions. The fact that go back and watch that footage that I've linked in this video, and then go back and watch parts of the Dear Wifey podcast. You can watch it in whole. You can watch the spicier bits that everyone's talking about, but you need to watch it because parents need to become sophisticated enough to be able to talk to their children about avoiding the predators amongst you. Because what we've all been sharing is that your greatest victimizers are going to be people who are in positions of power, positions of influence. They're going to be in your church. And you would think when you're coming into a church and the pastor and the pastor's wife should have done the work to be able to be emotionally mature, wise, and have worked through their own mess to an extent that they will be able to help to give you pointers, right? Because they're charging you 10%. But that, and the sad part about that 10%, that's a manipulation within itself that people in churches have been using, because quite frankly, people are giving more than 10% and they're being told that it's God, and it's not. It's a fiction that has been used to make money, make people move money from their pockets into the pastor's pockets, so that so that they can then purchase the favor. That whole prosperity gospel, the way tithing is taught, it is a fiction that is evil because it is teaching people. It is putting a demand on people. It's convincing people that if they give their money and they give it cheerfully, whether or not they have it, they give their last dime, like the mistaught parable of the widow and the mite, that they will then purchase and secure favor from a deity they neither see nor hear. Okay, because people will tell you that they've had experiences that you can't really validate, but that's for them to say. But let me wrap back around to the original statement so I can keep this a short video. People join churches and decide to learn from teachers, because it's all a pastor is, it's a teacher. They do it with the understanding and the expectation and the assumption that the pastor is emotionally immature, that they have examined themselves and they have gone through the process of healing. What happens is that's not happening. And that emotionally immature people who want to wage culture wars, and they want power and control over other individuals, and they want that without having to do the work. And they think that if they take on the title of Christian, and they think that if they take on the title of pastor, that somehow, that label, it covers up. It's like the fiction of the blood, that it covers up the evil and the core and base programming that is at play within the individual. And that's something I want to talk about. I may have to do a separate, shorter video, which is this. Everyone has founding dogma. I began a couple of weeks ago talking on my channel and explaining the fact that you're not born evil. And that was a fiction that the church has propounded. It's been propounded from pulpit after pulpit that you're born into sin, that you're born evil, and that's original sin. And everybody, because of a woman, was Eve, was affected by it. And we all know that's a lie. You weren't born evil. You were taught to be evil. And so everyone has core programming. They have, I call it founding dogma. It's your beliefs that were formed. It was taught to you by your parents, taught to you by your family, your community, taught to you heavily people who are indoctrinated into a specific religion. It's going to be your core and founding dogmas. Your foundation as a person was built based on the materials, the ideas, and the beliefs that you were taught in your religious sect, whatever religion you were indoctrinated into or decided to get into. And so those things make you evil. That's where the evil comes from. And it often will come from people like you see those three people. I'm not talking about the therapist. She's a doctor on I'll try to link her page. But the stuff, that evil that people take into themselves and that is folded into into who they are and that forms their character, it comes from these three individuals. The person at the top of the screen, I think it's Letarius. He's doing he has a toxic podcast like Find His Next Wife, which we all understand is Find His Next Victim, because we can tell that he and the pastor couple, they don't appear to have matured and to have healed in a way that puts them in a position to even stand in a position of teacher. Because if you go back and you watch that podcast, even if you just watch the video that's connected to this one, you can tell that the way they went about, they conducted that discussion, it shows. And the therapist is saying the same thing. She's on the bottom side of the screen. Is saying the same thing. There is nothing about, and you can go, and let me just add this, go and watch, because I've saved a bunch of clips from that pastor and his wife's church. They have a big church. And a large congregation that they're teaching. And you can tell just by the things that they allow to be clipped, they're not people you want in your life. I don't know them personally. Maybe personally, you were able to observe something different, but the things that they allow to be clipped and put online about themselves shows that, for me personally, I would not want them in my life as a teacher of any kind, except a cautionary tale about two individuals who were not healed, were not delivered, are not mature enough, even years, decades later. Because the story that they're talking about was from their 20s, before before they were Christians. Apparently, I think the pastor's family may have been a part of the church, but at that time they were saying that they were not operating as Christians. I don't care what they were operating in at that time. If that's what that man learned in his household, and that's what that woman learned in her household, and then they got together, she admitted to the fact that she had extremely low self-esteem, that there was something that went on between her parents that put her in the position of trying to save whatever relationship that she has. I'm not judging them. I'm just trying to tell you all that they're not individuals that you're going to want in your life, teaching you how to have healthy, mature relationships. Because what they allowed and what they said put on full display that you don't need them in your lives teaching you about God. You don't need them in your lives teaching you about how to have healthy relationships. They were laughing about abuse. They were talking very coyly about abuse, and they were not speaking of it in a way, and the therapist is right, they're not speaking of it in a way that even expressed the profundity and the profound and dangerousness of what was going on in that relationship. And they got a book that they're walking around trying to, allegedly they have a book. I didn't even go look for it because they're not individuals that I need to listen to. If you want to go on a path with people, down a road with people, making community with people who are in positions of power in your life and influence, who have unhealed trauma, who, given the opportunity because of their base programming, their core dogma, the way they were, given the opportunity, they're just going to do it again. That's a longer conversation that needs to occur here on TikTok, over social media, and it needs to be done for free so that people can understand. All these life coaches, Christian religious coaches, gurus, and all these people, these are human beings who have a past, who are in the position now of influence and power, who likely shouldn't be in those positions, but because they've got charisma and they've got a way about themselves, people find them interesting and entertaining. So they're often elevated to positions. I started this conversation years ago on this platform that people are being elevated to positions of influence and power who do not need to be in those positions and should not be in your lives as a person who you're listening to. Because as people are finding out, these men who are trying to be relationship coaches are still victimizers and abusers. These men who rise to positions of power are still victimizers and abusers. They're just people whose nonsense is out